Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Thursday, December 5th. If you've been hiding under a rock, yes, Trevor Lawrence going to be out for the year, it looks like, on injured reserve. Azeez Al-Shaair having a little bit of a villain origin story, although I think that he's already painted himself into that corner with his actions on the football field, right? But we're not here to talk about any of that right now. We are here to talk about the PFF 3-round mock draft that dropped this week. Trevor Sikkema, who is one of my favorite personalities in the draft space, does a tremendous job over at PFF as their lead draft analyst, dropped a 3-round mock draft. And we're gonna talk about it, right? As I've told y'all, we're pretty much focused on the future here on this channel. If you want heavy, pregame matchup analysis, but whether it be, matchups to watch, keys to victory, all the things that we normally do here on this channel, probably not going to be doing as much of that because, quite frankly, the Jaguars have nothing to play for at this point, it's sad to say, but it's the truth. You obviously want to see your young players do well, continue to see progress, but other than that, not much to cheer for. The Jaguars do currently hold the number 1 overall pick. They do. And so we're going to dive into what Trevor Sikkema has the Jaguars doing here in this mock draft. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content here, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. So he does, again, 3 rounds here, first 2 days of the draft. He has explanations for each pick in the first round. So we're going to go ahead and read his explanation here. Jaguars taking wide receiver / cornerback Travis Hunter at first overall. Trevor says, with Walker Little's contract extension, the Jaguars are no longer in dire need of an offensive tackle at the top of the draft, giving them flexibility to select the best player available. In our estimation, that player is the two-way phenom Travis Hunter. Hunter has been nothing short of exceptional, earning the 2nd highest coverage grade among FBS cornerbacks and boasting the 5th highest grade among wide receivers. The ideal approach would be to play Hunter as a full-time cornerback while incorporating occasional reps at wide receiver each week. So I've told y'all I don't have a problem either way. Whichever team selects Travis Hunter, and if it's the Jaguars, great, because I agree, he is the number 1 player in this class. I don't have a strong opinion about where you play him. I would probably go receiver more heavily just because I think that there's more value in that down-to-down, game-to-game, having a reliable receiver for your quarterback and pairing Travis Hunter with Brian Thomas Jr., that'd be great. But in this situation, as Trevor says, you get a full-time corner who probably gets like 10 to 15 reps a game on offense, right? Depending on the situations. And I could live with that too, because I think he's going to be a fantastic corner in the NFL. I think pairing him opposite Tyson Campbell with Jarian Jones in the slot, that gives you a really nice trio at corner. So I would absolutely be okay with that. And, Trevor says with Little's extension, the Jaguars are no longer in dire need of a tackle at the top of the draft. I got news for y'all. There's no tackle at the top of the draft that would make any sort of sense at 1 overall. Bottom line. So yeah, this is the direction I would go. If y'all have been paying attention, you know that. I absolutely love Travis Hunter, his ability to, if we're talking about him more as a cornerback here, his quick feet, fluid hips, his length is extremely disruptive throughout the route and especially at the catch point. And then his understanding of how receivers are trying to attack him, being a receiver himself, and how offenses are trying to attack their defense is second to none, really. I mean, him and Will Johnson just have incredible, it seems like, study habits and instincts. I don't know them personally, but that's what their tape says, that those two guys just know what's coming more often than not. And Travis Hunter, he's able to really bait quarterbacks into some silly throws and make them pay. So I absolutely love this pick for the Jaguars. I think it would be awesome to have Travis Hunter in Jacksonville, whether he's playing wide receiver or cornerback more. And then beyond that first overall pick, again, the Jaguars in this should have 4 draft picks because they have their 2nd round pick and they have 2 third round picks. Now, Trevor did not account for the Jaguars trade with the Vikings for that third rounder at 92 overall currently, but we will talk about what's there, what's available there when we get to the third round. But Travis Hunter at corner, that eliminates a big need. And if you're planning on if you have the first overall pick and you're planning on taking Travis Hunter at corner with the first overall pick, that means you do not need to address corner in free agency really at all. And I've talked about the corners in free agency. You've got DJ Reed, you've got Charvarius Ward. There's some nice names at the top, certainly, but that would give you. And the Jaguars have $65 million in cap space. It looks like something like $60 million. They could certainly clear out more cap space, and I think with what happens in the second round, they probably would be clearing out more cap space. I think you could spend a lot of money on other areas of this football team to try to improve things and get ready to compete, get back into the playoffs, bare minimum at in 2025, right? So Travis Hunter at 1, and then at 33. And now right now the Jaguars, Raiders, and Giants all have the same records. So if that were the case at the end of the season, the Jaguars wouldn't have the 33rd overall pick. I believe they would have pick 35 or whatever, but that's neither here nor there at this point. At 33, Jacksonville Jaguars take receiver Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. And this is a pick, yes, I would absolutely be fired up about. Is it the prospect I would take here? Maybe not if I was making the decisions, but he would certainly be on my short list. And so again, he's somebody I would be fired up about for the Jaguars. What's interesting about it is I mentioned maybe having more cap space than they currently are projected to have. If you're drafting Emeka Egbuka at 33 overall, who, in my opinion, is going to play more in the slot than outside. I think he can do both, but I think you want him in the slot a good bit at the next level. He's 6'1", 205. He has the size to play outside. He has the route running ability to play outside. I just think the way he's been utilized at Ohio State in the slot should be the blueprint for you. He is so good in that regard. So I don't think you need to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of situation with Emeka Egbuka. You play him more in the slot, but he can play outside as well. Point being, you currently have a slot only receiver on your roster. So I think if you had Emeka Egbuka and Christian Kirk, that would be redundant skill sets. And they're not the same player at all. Egbuka is, got more size and length to his game. I think he's better at the catch point. I think he has stronger hands. But again, you're probably utilizing them both in the slot more than you are anywhere else. So Christian Kirk, the Jaguars could save $10 million by parting ways with Christian Kirk. And so if their plan is to go draft a primary slot receiver in the draft, Christian Kirk probably doesn't make sense for the roster anymore. So that gives you even more money to play with in free agency if you decide to move on from Christian Kirk. You could potentially trade him, although he'll be coming off the injury. You might just release him, save that cap space, and move on. So Emeka Egbuka, as I mentioned, super strong hands, great route runner. Like, his ability to get in and out of his breaks is pretty special. Maybe my favorite thing about him is his body control and focus at the catch point, both in, all over the field. Whether it's talking about catching these underneath passes where it's coming in hot and he's got to get those hands up quickly and haul it in, or catching passes over the shoulder towards the sideline, getting his feet down in bounds, catching jump balls in the end zone. He does it all. And so I love his catch point skills, his body control, his focus with his hands. I think it's really tremendous for Emeka Egbuka there. And again, being able to land him at 33, I have him valued higher. I mentioned he might not be the pick for me in this situation. That's not because he's not a value here. He is a value here. But there's a few players on the board that I still have valued a little bit higher, but I think Emeka Egbuka would be fantastic. Now, going to get to the third round. first, got to remind y'all to check out Underdog Fantasy for Pick'em and a whole lot more. You can use code Duval Daily on their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash Pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. This season, Underdog's going to be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like Profit Boost. You can pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. There will be a lot of options for Jaguars and Titans. Maybe you want to pick a running back to score. Underdog has Vulture Protection to rescue your pick'em. Helped me out this past weekend. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Duval Daily. Claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 90 plus, Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncbgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. So this is where it gets really interesting for me, because we've added a reliable pass catcher for Trevor Lawrence to pair with Brian Thomas Jr. And now you've got two really young, talented receivers on cheap contracts for the foreseeable future, which is exciting, right? It absolutely is. And you've also got Travis Hunter paired with Tyson Campbell, two really talented outside corners. At 65, he has the Jaguars taking offensive guard Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. And this is not a pick I would make. He would not be on my short list if we're just talking about offensive line. He wouldn't be at the top of the list. So Donovan Jackson, I think he probably is a third round value. I think that's where he belongs in this draft, somewhere in the third round. He has some nice hip flexibility and hip mobility, in my opinion. And so he can sustain some hits and kind of handle big body blows at the point of attack and not lose his balance. And I think he moves fairly well. I think overall he's like a good athlete, not a great athlete at guard. I don't think he's a technician in any way in the run game or in pass protection. So there's just some question marks about his game. Like, I don't think he's an elite athlete. I don't think he's super technically refined. So what's the upside with taking him here at 65? And you say, I mean, that is a third round pick, but it's top of the third round. There's offensive line prospects I would take, and y'all probably know who I'm going to talk about if you've been paying attention. Marcus Mbo, Armand Membu, both of these guys for me should be off the board way before Donovan Jackson. And, they just have more athletic upside. They have more hand refinement. They're better football players. I know Donovan Jackson is the bigger name, went to a bigger school, bigger recruit coming out of high school, all that stuff. But to me, Marcus Mbo and Armand Membu would be much better picks. And they also have guard tackle versatility. Yeah, you've seen Donovan Jackson play some tackle at Ohio State this year because Josh Simmons got hurt. He does not have tackle versatility to the next level. It ain't been pretty. So that's not a pick I would be a fan of at all. I do think he probably will go on day 2 of the draft. But to me, at 65, a little rich there. A little rich. And you've got Armand Membu and Marcus Mbo still on the board. Make sure Tyler Booker wasn't still available, because that's another name if you want to invoke at guard. Yeah, he's off the board at 36, which makes sense. So then again, Trevor Sikkema, who, not being critical at all, does a great job, but he did overlook the Jaguars actually holding Minnesota's third round pick here at 92 currently. He had the Vikings taking safety Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma. And again, that's not what he would have done for the Jaguars in all likelihood, although the Jaguars do have safety needs. I've talked about it. I think the Jaguars should be heavily involved in the safety market and free agency. There's 2 huge names at the top with Javon Holland and Budda Baker. I think either of those guys would be exciting. And there's plenty of depth throughout the safety class in free agency. So I would be in on that. Wouldn't be against taking another young safety, but certainly signing at least one big name safety, I think, should be in the Jaguars cards. At 92, what would I do since Trevor doesn't have the Jaguars with this pick? I would be looking at Shamar Turner, who is still on the board out of Texas A&M, I think. The Jags, They have invested as recently as last year quite a bit in the interior of their defensive line. Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson, I think both of those guys have upside. Devon Hamilton is still under contract. Eric Armstead is still under contract. But both of those guys will have expiring contracts next year. I think Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M is a tremendous athlete on the interior. He's about 300 pounds, 6'4". He's got good length. I love the way he plays the game. So much of the Jaguars' struggles, I feel like, is reading what's happening up front. And you see his eyes. You see him constantly communicating, constantly pointing things out. And he seems like he's always in the right place at the right time. He hasn't shown this amazing pass rush bag yet or anything like that. But I think with his physical traits, his athletic talents, his mental side of the game, his processing, and clearly his ability to study and know what's coming, there's a lot of upside for Shamar Turner to at the very least be a solid starter at the NFL level. So that's the direction I would go. I think Trevor did a great job with this one again, just not having the Jaguars with that 92nd overall pick right now. But landing Travis Hunter, Emeka Ibuka, not a huge fan of Donovan Jackson, but it is what it is. And then I plugged in here again, Shamar Turner. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.